Your dishwasher doesn't need a firmware update to wash your dishes. Your washing machine doesn't need the phone home to spin the drum. And your fridge absolutely 100% does not need a full screen computer on the door, especially if that screen can show you ads. Today, let's talk about why Wi-Fi in appliances should be optional, why the privacy trade-offs are rarely worth it, and how smart quietly turns into monetized. Welcome back to the Tyler Woodward Project. I'm Tyler, a broadcast engineer by trade, a Linux nerd by choice, and I enjoy demystifying tech that's supposedly too complicated for people. Here's the thesis up front. Smart is not automatically bad. Connectivity can genuinely help. Remote diagnostics, software improvements, convenience features, but it also creates data exhaust. And data exhaust creates monetization pressure. And, well, that pressure almost always ends up as tracking, upsells, lockouts, or advertisements, and maybe all four. So first, we'll define what you actually gain from Wi-Fi appliances. Then we'll talk about what you're really paying for. Money, reliability, privacy, and finally, a practical checklist to buy and configure these things without getting hosed. Let's start by separating three very different ideas that marketing likes to mash into one word: smart. First is optional convenience. That's stuff like, tell me when the laundry is done or ping me if the fridge door is open. Second, maintenance and support improvements like remote diagnostics that can reduce the number of service visits because the tech can show up with the right part the first time. Third, and this is the slippery one, features that should work locally but are put behind a connection or an account to push you into the cloud ecosystem. Consumer Reports documented examples where smart appliances are chatty, constantly sending encrypted data back to the manufacturer even under light use. In their test, appliances across major brands sent about 3.4 megabytes to about 19 megabytes of data per week back to the manufacturer. In CR notes, that's with usage that may be less than a typical household. Now, if that data is strictly used for reliability and safety fixes, that can be a win. But the problem is you, the owner, you don't get to observe that data directly. You don't get to have that clean off switch, and you don't get to negotiate how it's used later when the business model shifts. And the business model always shifts because the appliance sale, well, that's a one-time transaction. But if they can get you hooked on services, advertising and data profiling, well, that's a recurring revenue stream. Here's the part that I think most people miss. Companies aren't adding Wi-Fi because it's a nice thing to have. They add Wi-Fi because once a device is connected, it can be turned into a platform. And platforms have two magnets: telemetry and monetization. Let's connect this to real life with a couple of concrete examples. You know, how it actually goes wrong type stories. One failure mode is feature gating, where a device that feels like it should be local gets tied to connectivity for some reason or another. Back to Consumer Reports. They covered a case where a $3,600, $3,600 GE wall oven required Wi-Fi to unlock convection roast mode, even though convection cooking predates Wi-Fi by decades. GE's explanation? Well, as reported by Consumer Reports, it included pushing, and I put this in air quotes, pushing a better with time mindset and enabling enhanced features via software. Yeah, okay. Another failure mode is ads showing up in places they don't belong. Samsung? Yeah, I'm looking at you. Samsung has published support instructions for turning off cover screen ads on its Family Hub smart fridges, which is, well, a pretty solid indicator that ads can be part of the experience. Even if there's a toggle today, the deeper issue is that the product category now has an ad surface at all, because that means incentives, they're going to change over time. Eventually, you will not have that toggle button. And the biggest sideways issue is privacy, because connecting appliances create a timeline of your life. Consumer Reports describes how connected appliances can collect information ranging from usage patterns to personal information collected through companion apps, and notes that some apps can include third-party trackers. Consumer Reports specifically calls out that the LG ThinQ app contained 10 third-party trackers in their analysis. And that 10 is on the high side among mobile apps in their testers' experience. And this is where the smart isn't bad nuance really matters. Remote diagnostics can be helpful, but it doesn't require collecting every little piece of data forever. A washer doesn't need your date of birth to wash your hoodie. And a fridge, for sure as hell, doesn't need your geolocation to keep the milk cold. So when the data collection exceeds what's needed for function and safety, that's a signal. The device is being optimized for the company, not for you. So what should a power user actually do, like this weekend? Well, here's my practical playbook. First, decide if you need network features at all. If the only benefit is cycle done notifications, that's usually not worth creating a new always-on data source in your house. If the benefit is remote diagnostics during warranty, well, that could be helpful. Temporarily, connect it when needed, then disconnect it. Second, treat the phone app as part of the product that you're buying. If the app is loaded with trackers, you're not just buying an appliance, you're buying an ongoing relationship with an ad tech shaped ecosystem. Consumer Reports recommends reducing exposure by changing location permissions and disabling app tracking on your phone where possible. Third, isolate anything you do connect to your Wi-Fi. Consumer Reports also suggest putting smart devices on a guest network to keep them separated from your main network, which houses your laptops and your phones, reducing the blast radius if the device or account gets compromised. Fourth, don't pay extra for a screen you don't need. A fridge door screen is a computer in a hot, high humidity, high touch environment. And if it becomes an ad surface, you just paid to install a billboard in your own kitchen. If a feature can be done with a phone you already own, paying a premium for a built-in screen usually fails the value per dollar test. Finally, a little shopping rule of thumb. Prefer appliances that work fully offline. Wi-Fi should be an optional convenience, not required to access core cooking modes or basic functions. If a store listing or demo model can't clearly explain or show you like a demonstration of how it works without an account, that's a reason to keep on looking. So no, most people don't need Wi-Fi in a dishwasher or a washing machine or a fridge. And a screen on a fridge door is often a pricey shortcut to future annoyance. Smart can be fine, but once the device is connected, it starts producing data exhaust, and data exhaust attracts monetization pressure like crumbs attracts ants. Visit tylerwoodward.me, follow at tylerwoodward.me on Instagram and Threads. Subscribe and like the show on your favorite podcast platform. I'll catch you next week.